Welcome back for another video. Time to get back into the swing of FPL with the deadline around the corner at last. So let's catch up with what the experts are doing this week with data from hundreds of top managers. If you're not a channel subscriber, this is the one series you cannot miss each week, so make sure you're subscribed. I'm off to get the Focal logo tattooed as promised for 200,000 subscribers as well right after this video. Wish me luck. Let's kick off with the manager highlight then. Marcin's moved top of the league with a huge score of 92 points, which takes him up to 34k overall. Amazing rank this early in the season. The average score in the Experts League was 78 points, 14 above the global average. It's quite a good barometer to show how well they actually play when their average score is consistently well above the overall average. Flair players got the highest score of 97 points. On to transfer activity, and this week 33% are going to roll the transfer, 24% making one transfer, 25% making two, and 7% making three transfers for a -4 here. And this week 11% have got a chip active, and we've got a wildcard team for one of the experts to look at later in this video. So a ton of transfer activity this week. Who are the most popular players they're buying and selling? The most transferred in player this week is Salah, who 39% have picked up. Not surprising at all given how well he started, plus he's got two home fixtures ahead, to Forest and Bournemouth. But just how well has he started? Well, until this season, the most points he'd had after 3 game weeks was 30 points in the 2019-20 season and 21-22 season. He's 11 clear of that currently with 41. So who's being sacrificed to fund him? Well, it's Saka, who 27% of the experts have sold. Unless you've got 2.5 mil or so lying around, then you do need the extra funds as well, which is why we're seeing so many making 2 or 3 moves. Isaac to João Pedro is how many of them are funding it. I mentioned in the team selection video that Saka did very well against Spurs last season. He got 1 goal, 1 assist in the home and away games. Now, of course, after that, Arsenal do have Man City, and they're going to be without Rice and Ødegaard against Spurs, and they'll be without Ødegaard against City. So how much of a loss is Ødegaard to Arsenal? With Ødegaard in the team, they've won 66.4% of games, without him 52.6%, 2.1 goals per game with him, 1.6 goals per game without. A slight drop off in shot frequency as well. Before the season kicked off, Haaland was their favourite premium. We have seen countless times over the years where the end of an era comes at a club and the team takes time to adapt to a new manager, maybe even culture. Arsenal and Man United are 2 good examples, but Liverpool hit the ground running under Slot. 3 wins in 3, 3 clean sheets in 3, 7.1 expected goals as well, 7.11 for Man City, so they're practically even at this point. 31% have bought João Pedro then, who has hit the ground running as well with 2 goals in 3 games, and he's home to Ipswich next. He did travel with Brazil over the international break, getting a very late call-up. He only played 45 minutes in total though, so the hope for owners is his minutes will be unaffected. 16% have bought Eze and 16% have bought Robertson. It's an ideal entry point to buy Eze with a home fixture to Leicester, same applies to Robertson. Palace will then have another home game to Man United and then Everton away. It's been quite a few years, but the Robertson and Trent double up at the back really does look strong again. Both have played very well and both look capable of attacking returns any game right now. 5% have sold Nkunku, and some are buying Rodgers, who is another way to free up that Salah money if you need it. If not for a couple of big chances missed by Watkins, there'd be no debate what immense value he can be. 4% have cut their losses on Quanta as well. It actually won't be surprising if he gets some starts in the coming weeks with Champions League back, but his starts do look unpredictable and you wouldn't feel comfortable starting him any game week unless there's a league, which is also possible. Just 5% have opted for Welbeck over João Pedro, who could get more minutes this week given the latter's international call-up and lots of travelling. Though an early trend we've seen in the last couple of games is Welbeck comes off a bit early and João Pedro pushes up top. When they both start, he plays a bit deeper with Welbeck up top. Welbeck's best ever goal scoring season in his 16-year Premier League history is 9 goals, which João Pedro matched last season, albeit lots of pens in there. Both look like great picks for the next 2 game weeks though. It's still a bit unclear who the best formal defender is. My pick in pre-season was Greaves, who 7% have picked up this week, with Ipswich's fixtures turning nicely now, nailed on at centre-back. Mosquera is a great shout as well when Wolves get into an easier period, though he did pick up a knock over the break. Just don't plan to start any of the formal defenders if you can help it, they're 4 mil for a reason. I'm interested to know everyone's thoughts on Lewis. My gut feeling is he could become a frustrating pick in the coming weeks when the schedule gets busier. 10% have picked him up though, but is he really going to start every week? You'd be surprised if Walker waiting for his first minutes of the season still. He's undoubtedly been brilliant though, and a very reasonable pick if you've got sufficient bench cover. He's someone that you need in a backline with 3 or 4 other playable defenders ideally. So how's the chip landscape looking then? 11% have got their wildcard active this week, which means about 79% have still got theirs. The next wildcard window that I think will be a popular one is Game Week 6, which is the ideal time to load up on Arsenal assets and the likes of Mbeumo and Haaland if you don't have them. Foden's back in training as well, who could be a crazy differential soon. Forza Inter's got his wildcard active this week, and he shared his team, which is Raya, Fabianski, Dunk, Davis, Mosquera, Trent, Lewis, Rogers, Eze, Minte, Luis Diaz, Salah, João Pedro, Haaland and Jackson. Here's what he had to say. Building a wildcard for Game Week 4 was quite a tricky endeavour, and with hindsight may have been a slight overreaction on my part to having strong Game Weeks 1 and 2, but a below average Game Week 3. Nevertheless, with this wildcard I addressed a number of structural and key personnel issues within my team, and I hope I'll yield some reasonable gains, not only over the next 2 game weeks, but also against those managers planning to wildcard in Game Week 6. This means that I've maybe playing the most conservative wildcard ever, but it still feels very satisfying knowing that I have a revamped squad. Like many managers I imagine, I find myself needing to shift my Game Week 4 squad towards the likes of Liverpool, Brighton and others, but due to high-speed car crashes named Solanke in Game Week 1 and Murphy in Game Week 2, I now lack the free transfers needed to bring in the likes of Salah, Trent, João Pedro and Minte etc. More patient, more skilled, less irrational FPL managers may be able to steer their Newcastle and Arsenal-laden teams towards calmer waters without deploying the wildcard lifeboat, but clearly I am not as patient, as skilled, or as rational as they are. Triple Liverpool feels right. Salah, Trent and Diaz are my pool boys. The plan is for Salah and Diaz to become Saka and Mbeumo in Game Week 6, but I plan to keep Trent in my team for the long haul, as he offers ridiculously good value for 7 mil. Trent is kept company by a bunch of budget defenders so I can load more money into the front 8. I will however keep faith in Raya, as this price means I have exposure to the league's best defence for 5.5 million. Davis, Duncan, Lewis. Lewis is a minutes risk, I know. All have attacking return potential and decent fixture blocks. Dunk might become an Arsenal defender in a couple of weeks, and Mosquera could be Greaves instead, but I prefer not to double up on a promoted size defence. Plus, Wolves have a decent fixture run somewhere down the road. Beyond Salah and Diaz, Eze and Rogers are long-term midfielder glue picks, and I've taken the advice of many content creators by trying to make Rogers my 8th rather than 7th attacker. Along with Rogers, Minte will shuffle in and out of my starting 11 depending on fixtures. Up front, Haaland and João Pedro both feel like safe, responsible picks, but Nicholas Jackson's clearly a more risky wildcard punt. I've never owned him, and my expectations aren't sky high, but something gutty tells me he's capable of delivering a few surprises and he's clearly a differential pick right now. My Game Week 4 wildcard with no less than 3 planned transfers in the weeks ahead. What could go possibly wrong? Thanks very much for sharing and best of luck with the wildcard. Moving on to Experts Captaincy, and it's just 2 names this week, unsurprisingly, Haaland and Salah. 82% of captain in Haaland, 18% captain in Salah. It really is hard to separate the two given they both have home fixtures and both have equal points after 3 game weeks. The anytime goal scorer probabilities have Haaland ahead on a 56% chance of scoring any time, and Salah's on 43.5%. Watkins is in 3rd, but he's not been seen in training yet, which is something to keep an eye on if you've got him. Emery should give us an update in his press conference before the deadline. João Pedro notably on 35% this week. As far as the game week projections, with everything factored in, Haaland's top on 8.4 points on FPL Review, and then Salah on 7.8, Eze's 3rd on 6.2. Let us know in the comments who your captain is this week. Onto the Experts team for Game Week 4, and there's been a few changes to the team. It's Henderson in goal, it's Trent, Konsa and Robertson in defence. In midfield it's Rogers, Salah, Eze, Jota and Smith Rowe, and it's Haaland and João Pedro up top. So it's Haaland captain and Salah vice. Salah, João Pedro and Konsa join the team in place of Saka, Hall and Isak. 11 home fixtures this week, looking very good this week. Valdemarson, Muniz, Porro and Barco on the bench. Smith Rowe and Muniz is a bit of a toss-up, but we've got Smith Rowe starting here. The Experts ownership percentages are from last week as always, where Isak was actually the most owned player last week in 88% of teams, but given the mass sales and keeping the team within budget, João Pedro replaces him. If there was ever a week for the team to knock it out of the park, this has got to be it. That said, we know how much of a troll FPL can be at times. Muniz is probably going to score a hat-trick on the bench, and Henderson scores an own goal. Moving on to the Experts' final thoughts and tips for Game Week 4, here's what they had to say. Very Messi is not convinced by selling Isak. He says, holding my wildcard until the November international break, unless there's a rash of injuries. Brighton's fixtures are too scary to bring in Pedro. Isak's form seems fine and no reason to doubt him. Ash Patel took a -4 to sell Saka and Nkunku and Isak for Salah, Rogers and Welbeck, and he says, I went early on Salah in the international break because Nkunku was bleeding value. I usually only take 1 or 2 hits in a season, but I felt the need to get Salah in and drop Nkunku quickly, so 3 transfers weren't necessary with only 2 in hand. I'm hoping it pays off, but having to get rid of Saka and Isak could well come back to haunt me. The Football Chatter was another expert with his wildcard active and he shared his thoughts. He says, the wildcard is active. I felt like my team had been underperforming and Haaland was a life jacket keeping us up. So here we are. I'm looking at João Pedro and Semenyo rotation. They rotate quite nicely, and it will allow me to play in Mbumo, Eze, Salah, Haaland and Havertz as my front five. Rodgers is there as a budget option, but I'm not against playing him, as I feel he passes the eye test as well. I've got Raya and Havertz ready for the fixture change for Arsenal in Game Week 6, and I'll scout the impact of Odegaard's injury on them versus Spurs and City, before deciding who my third pick will be. I don't want to lock in any future moves, so going for Arsenal and Mbumo now feels sensible. So it's interesting that he's taken a very different approach to Forza Inter's wildcard, getting the Arsenal players now, possibly at the trade-off of some points, but saving transfers essentially. Marco says, international breaks this early into the season should be illegal. And the Doc FPL says, FPL is back, it's been 84 years. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and hit like to show support. I've just put the post up on my channel taking your Game Week 4 questions and dilemmas, so make sure you get yours in for Friday's video. See you soon for the next one.